You need to choose better. It's your fault that you got dogged out because, women don't know how to choose partners. I'm sure most, if not all of you, have heard some variation of that, or you've seen it play out on social media. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. We need to have a conversation about the you need to choose better or women need to choose better partners argument that many people are very quick to dish out. Even other women are quick to dish that out to other women. Well, I agree that people need to be able to discern, have adequate social and communication skills, and more importantly, be able to take their time and vet people by by watching who their character is more so than what they say. I've also been privy to work with many skilled master manipulators and predators in my professional career. And the one thing that I've noticed about most predators, some of them, but not all of them, but the most skillful ones, I should say, is that most skillful predators are able to play the long game, meaning that they can be manipulative. And you've heard me talk about this before. I've seen it in women and men, but they can morph into a character that completely changes after a certain period of time. While there may be other glimpses, right? So sometimes there may be, little glimpses of time where the mask falls temporarily. Sometimes those times when the mask falls, that can be easily explained. Or if someone is getting to know you, they're not really as keyed into that until they get ready, until they're more acquainted with you, shall I say. And also, too, I think when feelings and emotions and intimacy and things like that are involved, sometimes people can get tunnel vision after that time frame when they start to see those little red flags. But again, I would say the most skillful manipulators can play the long game. And so at a certain point, if you've lived life, if you've been fortunate enough to live life long enough, you've been fortunate enough to be around people, be out in society, at some point of time or another, most of us have all gotten got by somebody, meaning that most of us have experienced manipulation in some form or another, whether it's through government, whether it's through jobs, whether it's through our own families. Our families are usually our best teachers, whether it's through school, whether it's through any friendships, relationships, whatever, you name it. Most of us at one point of time have gotten manipulated altogether. And so what makes us more susceptible to manipulation? I think, especially now, I think this is now more so than ever, but I think isolation makes people more prone to manipulation for sure. So isolation and vulnerabilities, so for example, if you look at Animal Planet, and I've said this before, if you look at the animal that kind of gets gobbled up first, or that the wolves or whatever predatory animals circle around, it's usually a baby or someone who's sick or injured, right? So it's usually the one that's most vulnerable and easily accessible, or they'll use that vulnerable to lure away someone else away from the herd, right? So usually it's much more difficult to attack when someone is within a group versus when a person is isolated. So that's one trait that makes people more prone to manipulation. I also think that people are more prone to manipulation when they're already suffering and they're in a form of despair. So much like what we've talked about in our economy, there's a lot of people that are struggling to make it, to survive, to make ends meet. And when people are struggling like that, and very similar to when people are struggling in relationships, like anyone who sort of throws out a lifeline, they're going to be more apt to take it because they're struggling. They're looking for any sort of crumb of hope, any sort of light that's going to lead to greener pastures. And so that's one thing. And so people want to try to get ahead if they can. And I think getting ahead could happen in two different ways. I think there's people that just, they're trying to get out of the mud. But there's also people that want to punch down on others that want to get ahead as well. And those people are also very susceptible to manipulation and getting got. So even narcissists and other manipulators are very prone to being manipulative because they're so ego-driven that they want to punch down on everybody else. They don't care how they do it. And so if someone says a magical word, hey, you can punch down on a group of XYZ, you can stomp on them, we're going to put them in their place. That sounds like music to a narcissist's ears. And they're like, oh, immediately I'm going to get ahead. I'm going to take advantage. And I'm going to pillage, I'm going to rob, I'm going to do whatever I can because that means that my pockets are going to get lined. And so they're going to ignore the other red flags because their ego is going to take over, so much so that they're going to think, you know what, I'm going to get a one-up on everybody else and I'm going to be king or queen of the world and no one can stop me, and that's my rightful throne that I'm going to take. So that's another way that people get got like that. So I think, I think there definitely needs to be compassion for more people, for people making mistakes in certain areas. However, I understand that right now, even as we're talking about politics, I think a lot of people sort of latch on to politics in different ways, right? And again, I think it depends on how people are feeling. Are we struggling? Are we struggling, but also are we getting further and further away from our dreams? Here in America, for a lot of people, not for everybody, but for a lot of people, the great American dream that it's been sold to a lot of people is, you work your 9 to 5, you have these great benefits for life, you get vested, you retire, you can buy a home, you can have children, you could do all these, you could have some financial freedom, right? And sort of move around a little bit and be able to relax after a certain age. But a lot of people are finding that they are, swimming in debt. They are getting pushed further and further away. A house is not even, they don't even foresee that in their future because their financial goals are moving. So their financial goal post has just been moving backwards. And so when someone says the magical buzzwords that people are going, the prices are going to go down, these things are going to happen. You're going to have access to medical care. You're going to be able to, just be able to get the basic affordabilities of life. You can be able to pay for college. We're going to do something about loans. It doesn't matter which politician. I think we've all been sold a dream when politics are involved. When we got a black president, a lot of black people were very hopeful that, finally, there's, black people can get ahead. We're making some progress. We're doing this. We're going to be able to get some jobs. We're going to be able to get, this sort of lifeline. And a lot of people, no matter who's in term or who's in office, have been sorely disappointed because, and the reason being is because, people are disconnected. People in power are disconnected from the people who are poor, right? They're socially, they're economically disconnected. That is not the world that they see. Or a lot of times, even if they've been there, they want to distance themselves from that. So they know what to say. But in terms of, rolling up your sleeve and digging in and getting your elbow grease on, a lot of people don't know how to do that. So be careful of being sold a dream, but also, it depends on what sort of mindset people are in when they're being sold a dream. But also, predators are predators. So they're going to watch, they're going to adapt themselves and be very skillful to see what other people, to sell a dream to people, essentially. And some are better than others. And some people, they're known for predatory behavior. But again, if people are so desperate, they may be willing to overlook it because they just want some sort of hope.